Okay, so sit yourself on your lift and then just bring yourself into a cross-legged position. So just have a little wriggle about on your seat. That's a bit bright, that light. Let me just turn it down a little bit. Just have a little wriggle about so that you feel evenly placed. Move the buttock flesh out to the side, just so that you're really finding levelness underneath the seat bones. And then just grip around your knees and lift the chest. So grip around the knees. So it's that action of holding onto the fronts of the knees and trying to almost draw the knees in towards the hips that helps you to elevate the front of your chest. Draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just look down at the floor. Allow your eyes to settle on something that doesn't move. Also something that doesn't distract you. Just take some deep inhalations, deep exhalations. Consciously breathing evenly into both lungs and evenly out of both lungs. Bring your hands into Masti. Press in the palms of the hands firmly together. Lengthen from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands. Pressing the heels of the hands together firmly and evenly. So are you pressing the thumb side of the heel of the hand more than the little finger side? So lengthen the armpits, the elbows away from the armpits a little more so that you can evenly press the heels of the hands firmly together. Take a deep inhalation and then with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate in-breaths and long, slow, deep, deliberate out-breaths. Observe the feeling of the breath. Listening to the sound of the breath at the nostrils and at the back of the throat. So allowing yourself to draw your attention into the breath. Very gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone. Holding on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area, and then gently release the backs of your hands down towards your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just grip around your knees again, lift and open the chest, driving the spine upwards, feeling as though the upper body is literally kind of full of helium rising the upper body up towards the ceiling. Take a good inhalation and then turn to the right, drawing your abdomen across, the ribs across, the shoulders across. Soften your jaw and your tongue. Continuing to breathe evenly into both lungs and evenly out of both lungs. Come back to the center, grip around your knees, lift and open the chest, driving the spine up towards the ceiling. Listen to the sound of the breath as it enters. And then turn to the left, drawing the abdomen across, the ribs across, the shoulders across. And then come back to the center, grip, come off your lift, and then just sit back on your heels. Just come onto all fours for a moment, and then lean forward. So you feel the back of the knee kind of open up. So the back of the knee area opens up. And then get your hand right into the back of the knee, and you have to kind of do the other side a bit more kind of trickily, and then press the fingers down into the back of the calf, and then draw the back of the calf away from the heels, away from the backs of the knees, and draw the calves outwards. Now your fingers might feel like they get stuck, but just prise them out. Just make sure that the big toes are in contact. Your knees are wide apart. So I'm not speaking very well today. You have to excuse me. Press your shins into the floor. Just lift and open the chest. Just spend a few moments just observing how your shins are making contact with the floor. Does it feel like they're evenly placed on the floor, or does there feel like there's better connection with one shin than the other? So if there is, then just pick up the front of the knee and lengthen the calf, the shin skin forwards away from the toes. And then spend a moment just again observing how the shins are making contact with the floor. So that relies on, rather than kind of a mental, it kind of depends on you drawing your attention into your shins and being conscious of how they feel. So draw your attention down into your shins. Observe how they feel and make sure that they feel even. So sometimes the more you observe, the more you notice that it's not even at all. So adjust so that they become even. Because consciousness of the foundation of the pose is really important. It helps us to bring evenness in the upper body. Come forwards, try not to lose that evenness that you just worked to achieve. Press the palms into the floor. And then stretch your arms away. Don't drop your head immediately, but feel that you can extend the front chest forwards, keeping the chin extending away from the collarbone. Just feel that you lengthen into the pose. And finally bring the forehead down. The more that you prepare, the more perhaps you notice that the head is closer to the floor. Breathe evenly and deeply, observing the breath. Just allowing the body to grow into this pose of Adho Mukha Virasana. So it's not just hanging here, it's feeling that you can maintain that consciousness of the shins, that evenness of action, and allow the body to fill up the pose, allow the pose to fill up the body. Come up onto all fours, have your little fingers on the edge of the mat, stretch the thumbs towards each other, turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down. Just spending a little time just to establish your pose to start off with. Just like we were connecting shins to the floor, observe how your hands and your feet connect to the floor. Is there evenness underfoot? Is there evenness under the hands? Maintaining the breath. So last week we were working with this process of observation with the in-breath and activation with the out-breath. So maintain that action. Observation with the in-breath, activation with the out-breath. Allow your in-breath to literally inflate the limbs. Try to draw your attention inwards. Observe evenness and levelness of the shoulders and of the arms and the legs and the action. Make sure both sides of the body are working evenly. Okay, step your feet forward, come up into a standing position, and then I want you to bring your feet as wide apart as your mat, bringing your heels out and your toes inwards, so that the outside edge of the feet line up with the mat. And just for a moment, I want you to just feel how your legs kind of want to rotate outwards. They want to turn that way at the front. They want to turn from the big toe side to the little toe side. But I want you to turn the fronts of the legs inwards. It's tadasanaization of the legs, isn't it? Turning the thighs inwards. As you turn the thighs inwards, be conscious that it's like a corkscrew. So the outside of the front of the thigh turns inwards. It doesn't just stop, it continues around the back of the leg, broadening outwards. So I want you to be really conscious of that inward turn, and we often focus on that inward turn, but the response to that inward turn is that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. So try and be cognizant of that action, turning the thighs inwards. Bring your hands onto your hips, lift and open the chest, squeeze your elbows towards each other behind you, and then hinge at the hips, come forwards, hinging at the hips. Just keep your hands on your hips for a moment. And again, turn the fronts of the thighs in and feel that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. So the more you can focus on the backs of the thighs broadening outwards, the more access you get into the seat bones. It's almost like you can draw the seat bones apart. Keep the front chest lifted and open. So just coming forwards, keeping your hands on your hips, keeping the elbows winging back, turning the fronts of the thighs in and feeling that the backs of the thighs broaden out. And then come back up to the center. If you've got problems with your back, bring blocks for underneath your hands. Otherwise, we're going to go down one more time, and then this time we're going to bring our hands to the floor. Just be conscious of your back if you're not going all the way down. Lift and open the chest, and then come forwards, extending the front chest, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, and broadening the backs of the thighs outwards, and then reach down and find the floor or the blocks. So once you've found the floor, then go back to the fronts of the thighs. Bring your consciousness into the fronts of the thighs and turn the fronts of the thighs inwards and feel the backs of the thighs broaden outwards, and then the lift of the seat bones. Use your breath to observe and activate. Extending the spine away. If you can reach the backs of your heels, then grip around the backs of the heels, but keep turning the thighs inwards, keep broadening the backs of the thighs outwards. Drawing the body in between the legs. Okay, and then just gently release your hands underneath your shoulders, and then bring your hands into your hips, and then come up into a standing position. And then come into Tadasana. So again, this action of turning the thighs inwards, can you connect that action with this feeling of kind of broadening out at the back of the legs? So the fronts of the legs turn inwards and the backs of the legs broaden outwards. It's an important differentiation. So turn the thighs inwards, the fronts of the thighs inwards, feel the backs of the thighs broaden outwards, and then find that little gap to tuck the tailbone into. Lift and open the chest, drive your spine upwards. Just look forwards and just observe and activate. Stretch your arms forwards for urdhva hastasana, and then raise your arms up, urdhva hastasana. Keeping the thighs turning inwards, backs of the thighs broadening outwards, turning the triceps around to the biceps to get the thumbs to stretch towards the back of the room. The little fingers just reach up towards the ceiling. And then release your arms. Just get some blocks and bring your blocks to the right side of your mat, parsvottanasana. And then come back into Tadasana in the middle of your mat. Lift and open the chest. Bring your arms out nice and wide. Spend a moment to observe the action of standing in Tadasana with the arms outstretched. And then bring your arms in towards the chest, and then step or jump the feet nice and wide apart. And then just bring your hands onto your hips. Turn your left toes in really steeply, and then the right leg and foot all the way out. So it's this back leg. I always talk about this back leg, don't I? Turn that back leg inwards. So as you turn that back leg inwards, the front of the thigh inwards, maybe you feel that the back of the thigh broadens outwards. So have your hands on your hips, and I'm going to stop talking so much so that it can give you an opportunity to just instill that action. Broadening the back of the thigh. What's happening with the front leg? Can you turn the front leg in the same way? Hands on the hips, swing the elbows towards each other, and then come forwards, but keep the legs engaged. And then reach down and find the blocks. Have the blocks underneath your shoulders. And continue to activate that action of turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, the backs of the thighs outwards. Of both legs, not just the back leg. If you can come down lower with the blocks, then do. Keep that action really determined in the legs. Don't be in a rush to get further into the pose. Focus on that action of the legs. So keep the back straight, keep looking forwards, keep the front chest long like we were doing when we were coming into Adho Mukha Virasana. So keep your head lifted, Ruth. That's it. Keep that front leg straight, tighten the kneecap of that front leg. Can you straighten that front leg? That's it. So you're rounding your back a little. See if you can lift the front chest forwards towards the chin. That's it. Okay, bend the front leg, step forwards, and then come up into Tadasana. Just be in Tadasana, just feel the legs lifting and opening the chest. And then just put your blocks onto the left side of your mat. And then come back into Tadasana. So I'm trying not to talk too much because sometimes it's just distracting noise, isn't it? I want you to draw your attention inwards if you possibly can. So let's just do the other side. Bring your arms out wide. Step the feet apart. Turn the right toes in the left leg and foot all the way out. And then just get those legs into that leg set. Once the legs are activated and activating, come forwards, hands on the hips. Keeping the front chest long as you come forwards, and then find the blocks. And use this stage of the pose to really incorporate that action into the legs. Lifting the front chest, working to straighten the back. You can come down lower, but not so that the back becomes a tortoise shell. The front of the chest needs to be lifted. If you can find the floor, then find the floor, but keep the front chest lifting. Keep the legs extending, turning. work from the feet up into the hips, from the hips into the chest. Okay, bend the front leg, step forwards, come up into the standing position, and then just come into Tadasana. Stretch your arms forwards, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then extend your arms up and over your chest, over your head. Maintain the same action of the legs. Extending the arms up towards the ceiling. And then release your arms. So I'm purposely giving you some thinking space, but are you using that thinking space to just kind of, if you're in badangulyasana, for example, if I go silent for a little while, are you using that as an excuse just to kind of let the arms relax, or are you using that opportunity to really draw your attention in towards the actions that your body is trying to achieve? So try and make it the latter, so that the silence is effective, is useful. Because silence is something always happens in the silence, doesn't it? That's a bit of a little drama tip as well. Something's always happening in the silence. Lift and open the chest, drive your spine upwards. Spread the toes of your left foot and then bring the right foot up into the top of the thigh. If you can, lift your shorts up on the left side a little so that you can make contact with the foot directly onto your skin. And then lift and open the chest. Just be in the pose, turning that front thigh inwards, feeling the back of the thigh broadening outwards. Lifting and opening the chest. And then raise your arms up over hastasana arms. Be in the pose with the breath and observe the pose. Are you making use of the silence? Release your arms, release the leg. So are you using the silence to draw your attention inwards, or were you just using it as an opportunity to relax? Spread the toes of the right foot, raise your shorts on the right leg if you can, and then bring the the left leg up into the top of the thigh. So using supports if you need to, and activate that leg in Tadasana, turning the thigh inwards, broadening the back of the thigh outwards. And then raise your arms up. So it's not just the standing leg I want you to focus on. Draw the other actions that we have worked on in the past into the present. Okay, and then release your arms and then bring your legs back into Tadasana. Just be in Tadasana, observe how your energy changes, how it has changed from the beginning of the pose. Maybe there's more upper body energy than there was before. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then again step nice and wide. Keep your arms out stretched this time. Come back into parsvtottanasana with the arms outstretched. Turn that back leg inwards, really get action into the arms, into the legs. Lift the chest. Activate the legs. Bring your hands onto your hips and then come forwards again and find the floor or your blocks. Work from the feet up into the hips, into the chest, into the head. Feel the backs of the thighs broaden. If you can, I want you to lengthen the chest and then start to walk your hands towards the back leg. Don't drop your head too soon. Maintaining the action of the legs, especially that front leg. We forget about the front leg. Okay, and then bring the hands back to the, so they're underneath your shoulders. Bend that front leg, step forwards, come up into a standing position. And then just come into the middle of your mat again. Observation and activation. Bring your arms out wide and then step or jump your feet apart. Keep your arms outstretched, turn the right toes in, the back leg and foot all the way out. Rotating fronts of the thighs so that the backs of the thighs broaden. Bring your hands onto your hips, make sure that the hips are level, and then come forward. Working with the legs. Keeping the front chest extending away. Find the floor or your blocks. Just be in the pose with the breath. Broadening the backs of the thighs, turning the fronts of the legs. Extending into the chest. So feel that you set the pose before you walk your hands back towards the back leg. Feel that the pose is stable before you move into the next stage. Walking the hands back towards the back foot. And then bring the hands back to the front. Bend that front leg, step forwards, come up into a standing position and back into Tadasana. Just breathe in nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Feel the energy in the chest, the upward openness of the chest. Okay, and then come down, sit back on your heels for a moment. So we're going to do headstand preparation. So it's good if you're wearing glasses, it's good to take them off when you go upside down. But just start off on the shins, and again, just make those shins make good contact with the floor. So if you can do a headstand, it's fine to just go up, but actually it's quite useful to focus on the base sometimes. So don't just immediately go up if you kind of normally do. So make the shins really connect with the floor, and then lift and open the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. And then come forwards as though you're going to come into Adho Mukha Virasana, but I want you to bring your elbows onto the floor and make the elbows as wide apart as your shoulders, no wider. Interlock the fingers. Make sure that the elbows aren't wider than your shoulders. Pick up the hands, the interlocked fingers, pick up the hands, and then lengthen from the elbows into the little finger side, and then bring the hands down onto the floor. Keep the thumbs in contact with each other. Keep the cup of your hands open. Press the outer wrist firmly into the floor. Press the forearms into the floor, so it really activates your upper arms. Breathe in nice and softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. Draw your chin in towards your chest, and then come up onto your knees and bring the top of your head onto the floor. Pushing your head into your hands into your head, keeping the armpits extending into the elbows. Turn your toes under, and then come up into dog down legs. So I want you to have your feet slightly apart and to turn those fronts of the thighs inwards so that you can broaden the backs of the thighs, and then tilt the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Coming right up onto the tiptoes. So it's like dog down. Okay. And then bend your knees and come down onto the floor. And then sit yourself up. So the more you activate the thighs, the more the seat bones will lift up towards the ceiling, and the more your back will be in a good straight line. So we're going to do that same thing again, but this time we're going to go from that well-placed foundation, and then you're going to keep walking your feet in, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. And then one leg at a time, you're going to raise it up. But when you raise that leg up, it's going to want to do this. It's going to want the toes are going to want to turn out to the side. So when you raise that leg up, focus on turning that front thigh in, broadening the back thigh out, and then you're going to lift that leg as high as you can. So the legs come up straight, because if you can go up with straight legs, then there's always going to be better stability. So just come down, back onto your elbows underneath your shoulders, interlock the fingers. Again, I'm not going to talk too much, try to anyway, and then lengthen the outside of the arms. Thumbs in contact with each other, keeping the cup open. There you go, I'm not doing a very good job of not talking, am I? Chin into the chest, top of the head on the floor, turn your toes under, and then really activate those legs. Have the feet slightly apart at first, just activating the legs, turning those thighs inwards, broadening the back of the thighs. Maybe Andrew, don't step in anymore, but Ian, if you can step in a bit further with your toes, that would be good. Lifting your shoulders up and then raising one leg. And then bring it down, raising the other leg. But as you raise the leg, turn the thigh inwards, the front of the thigh inwards, so the hips stay level. So just swap the legs, keeping the legs straight, keeping the thigh turning as you raise that leg. So Andrew, your hips are going out of line as you're raising the legs, so really turn that thigh inwards. Okay, everyone come down And then sit back on your heels and then stretch your arms away. Adho Mukha Virasana. What are you doing with the silence? Okay, push your hands into the floor and then just sit yourself up. Just come into a cross-leg position and grip around your knees. So even though we're not going all the way up into the headstand, just that preparation stage gives you the benefits of inversion. So just lift and open the chest, drive the spine upwards, draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Just allow the breath to inflate not just the lungs, but the arms and the legs. Bring the chin down into Jalandhara Bandha, bringing the chin in towards the chest. Again, maintaining Jalandhara Bandha, maintaining the breath. Incorporate Mula Bandha. To make sure that you're making use of the silence. And then release Mula Bandha, release Jalandhara Bandha, and then raise your head, elevate your spine up towards the ceiling. Feel how the bandhas just help you to build up an energy reserve so that energy flows evenly through the body. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. Sorry, turn to the right. Fill the silence with action. Breath, abdomen, ribs, shoulders, levelness. Come back to the center grip around your knees. Observe the sensations of the pose. Come into this central position. And then turn to the left. Elevate the spine with the back hand pressing into the floor. Abdomen, ribs, shoulders, back hand stabilization. And then very gently come back to the center. Just stretch your legs out, come down onto the floor and just grab a block, and we're going to go into setubandha. So just come down onto your back. You can always use your bolster for a more restorative version of the pose. Have your feet hip width apart, press the feet firmly into the floor and then lift the seat bones up off the floor, but you get stuck. So bring your hands out as wide as your shoulders and then turn the palm around to face the floor. So you come right up onto your shoulders, onto the tops of your shoulders. Then staying on the tops of the shoulders, get your block. Bring yourself down onto the block in the sacrum, spine. Grip the sides of the mat. Crease of the elbows facing upwards. And then either keep your legs bent or straighten your legs. Observation, activation, breath. Turn the thighs inwards, feel the backs of the thighs broaden. Use the silence. Okay, walk your feet towards the block. Just lift yourself up off the block. And then adjust your shoulders, come down, back onto the floor. And then pull your knees in towards your chest. So a little rock from top to bottom, from side to side. Just giving yourself a little massage on the spine. And then sit yourself up. Just prepare yourself for sirvasana. Use the blanket for your head. Just just move your equipment out of the way so that you're going to be able to stretch out without feeling kind of trapped by the equipment. Come down into a really good straight line. Just supporting your head with the back of the block, with the back of the blanket, sorry. And then bring your arms out away from the body a little. Your feet release. And then just allow yourself to just flop into the floor. Just be observant of the breath. Unhook the muscles of the arms and of the legs. Allow the body to become heavy. Observe the lightness that rises out of the heaviness. Allow that lightness to fill the body completely, using the breath to distribute it. Okay, when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, bringing yourself back into this pose of Shavasana. And then bend your knees in towards the chest, just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself grounding massage on the spine. And then roll over onto your right side. Stay down for a breath or two. And then stretch out the top leg. Just bring yourself up into a seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in Namaste. Just a final spinal lift. Close your eyes, draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy, that the extensions, the forward bends, the twists, the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to just acknowledge the positive energy you've created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. Okay, and then just gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel like you've kind of woken yourself out of your Monday slumber a little. and you've got lots of energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.